TractorZoom is fueling dealership growth through integrated solutions, actionable insights, and empowered business decisions.
Hello, everybody. Ben Thorpe here, Associate Editor with Farm Equipment Magazine. Welcome back to another episode in our Used Equipment University series made in partnership with TractorZoom. I'm here with Tom Healy from NAIDA. Tom, can you give us a quick intro on who you are and what you do?
Sure. As he said, Tom Healy here with NAIDA. I work as a dealer development manager currently, so hands-on at the dealership level, doing a lot of consulting, training work inside the dealer, helping them get over any service parts or whole goods issues that could be occurring in the dealership, or the opportunity where dealers are proactively working on growing.
And we're here today because when you and I met recently at a NAIDA event, I heard that you had a really good story about something impressive you accomplished with moving some inventory in 2018, 2019, I believe. So why don't we just start with, can you tell us the story?
Sure. So I got about 22 years experience in a large ag setting at a dealership in Michigan, 8 locations. 17 of those years I spent in the service department, running one of my own service dealerships and as the corporate service director over the other 8 locations. Being a service-driven dealership, we specialized in forage harvesters, being a large dairy state. Forage harvesters require a tremendous amount of maintenance, urgency, and care to drive that customer base like we have there. We were maintaining close to a 70% market share in the state for forage harvesters itself. With that being said, our service program really drove our business. We created a tremendous amount of turnover, and obviously with that much market share, you have a tremendous amount of used equipment. So we had programs in place to bring these machines in, to service, take care of them throughout the winter months, and make sure that they were field ready. We were probably servicing close to 200, 250 units in the state, which sounds, I mean, it's a lot, but when your service program's in place, you can manage that. So we weren't chasing these things during season. We were proactively taking care of them during the winter months. With that being said, our used equipment that was coming in, we were also going through that, and we were making sure that those used machines were at just as field ready as the customers were themselves. Corn heads, hay heads, and the base units. Well, we went through the glory days of 2012 and 2014, where that was expected at every dealership. Money was good, dairy was up, cash flow was in everybody's best, I guess. Interest there was happening. Everybody was making good money, so it wasn't an issue at that point in time. And it became a habit of our dealership that every used piece that came in went through the shop, was inspected, and then were repaired. And those documentations stayed with the machine, so that when we went to retail the machine, we had full lists of everything on the maintenance of that particular unit from the day it arrived in Michigan. It was really a great setup. It was operating well, but as we all know, those good days started to come to an end. In about 2017, I transferred from the service department to the whole goods director over the entire complex. Quite a shift in gears for me, but I brought a lot of the processes I learned out of service to whole goods. Service is very based on structure, obviously monitoring time, monitoring all the functions that happen within it, where whole goods is a whole nother animal. You got salesmen running around the countryside making deals that you have to uphold and make sure that all the promises are kept. But we also had the best equipment in the industry. I was confident that our service department was second to none. So it made it easy for our sales team to go out and make these deals start happening. Well, as the industry started slowing in 2017, roughly, a lot of dealers didn't wake up and see what was happening. We were starting to build up used inventory. And as I was coming into this new portion of the business, I'm starting to monitor these things and look at what's happening and start looking at inventory. And I had a dealer principal that, like most of them in those days, became emotionally attached to his used inventory. We bought that at a set price when we booked it in, and we had an idea of where we were going to retail that after it had been revamped or reworked in the service department. So we were still sticking a tremendous amount of money into these corn heads, hay heads, and base machines at that point, with the expectation we would turn around and sell them to the customer and have a hands-off experience for the first season. We actually gave a 1-year warranty internally on these machines, with that much confidence that they would go out and run for the season. Well, with that being said, that ideal was stuck in our head, but the industry was changing. And I watched as we rolled into 2018 and 2019 that we had 46 used forage harvesters on the ground. That was just forage harvesters. We have large ag tractors, combines, and everything else as well, but this was the one that really stuck out. My dealer principal and I had an extremely good relationship, and there was a lot of trust built in those years. And we started getting to the point where I'm watching the interest payments as we're coming off of some of these floor plan terms on used with the manufacturers, and these things start tripping. And I'm watching where we're going to start approaching $200,000 to $300,000 a month in interest payments. Now, a dealership of that size can sustain that kind of beating for a little while, but when you're talking cash is king in this industry, and it always has been and it always will be, you can deflate a dealership extremely quickly when you're not monitoring what's going on in the used equipment side of it. So looking at that and seeing the storm that was coming, and it was already right at our doorstep, I challenged my dealer principal to take a vacation to Arizona for a couple of weeks and let me clean up the mess. We had some discussions back and forth on what that was going to look like and what it would entail, but nobody knew the actual dollar amount that this could potentially cost to make this move. After some bickering and some conversation, he took me up on it. Him and his wife went to Arizona for 2 weeks, and I worked with our team inside to set up 3 consecutive auctions, 1 week, one auction 1 week, and back to back for 3 weeks. And we ended up running about 26 forage harvesters, heads, corn heads, hay heads, and then the whole kit and caboodle through these auctions. Each auction got worse than the other. As we started dumping these machines, we started seeing what the industry was really valuing these machines at. And everybody had their head in the clouds. Every dealer across the country had their units and had a tremendous amount of inventory as well, had their units posted online and on Tractor House and whatnot for what they thought the value was. So the industry was delusional at this point in time. We're all with our heads in the clouds thinking we're going to get this dollar amount out of these units. And the fact was, as soon as we started these auctions, we started seeing what was actually going to happen. And it was a bloodbath. We took that beating and we moved through it. You got to keep in mind, all of these machines had been through our shop. So we had 20 to 20, 30, even $50,000 work orders on these machines. Not only were we not going to recoup that money that we had stuck into it, we were going to lose right off of the top of the booking value. Booking a machine in after say 150,000, thinking you're going to put it through the shop for 20 and retail it for 200. These machines were going for 80, 90,000, and the heads were going for pennies on the dollar. So it was rough to watch this actually happen and occur. And all said and done, in about 3 weeks, we lost a little over $2 million. With that being said, after that was done and we moved through that, watching the whole goods department actually regroup, restructure how we were buying things in and doing inspections on them without sticking any dollars or money into it, where we could negotiate that rebuild or that shop overhaul after a customer was interested in the unit, and we could start talking what kind of cost that was going to inquire on top of the price. We structured that whole goods department so this would never happen again. That brings me back, to my service days in one of our 20 groups. And I know we've talked about this, Ben, before, and it's come up many times, but in that 20 group, there was a gentleman from down south that ran a Kubota dealer, and he had made a comment in that class that as a service guy, I found it comical, and it stuck with me, but I found it comical and didn't really see the value in it. When I moved into the whole goods department, that phrase that he spoke of really rang true to me. And a lot of people find it to be, like I said, it's comical, it's funny, but when you sit back and think about it, the truth is this industry really needs to recognize it and understand that if you're going to stay alive in this business and you're going to continue growing, that you have to be able to recognize your mistakes. You have to be able to recognize the sins you've made over the last year or 2 or 5 and move forward. And that phrase was, if you're going to eat a turd, don't nibble on it. Okay, everybody chuckles, everybody smiles, but at the end of the day, if you're going to sit back and look at your business and you're going to write those interest payments every month, every 6 months, every year, and watch that cash flow go out of the dealership, you're delusional. You're losing money hand over fist, just in much smaller pieces. And making that effort to move forward and clean up what kind of problem you've created, the sooner you do it, and you attach yourself emotionally to these things and make a business decision, the stronger and the quicker you can regrow and restructure so you don't let it happen again.
Right. When you said people chuckle and laugh, I chuckled and I smiled because it always makes me smile because it's so true. And it's such a great way to capture that sentiment. So it's a great story. I've heard it before. I wanted to capture it for the series, but now I wanted to kind of bring it back to today now. So do you feel the situation is still maybe happening today? And maybe what are some ways dealers can take the story that you've told and maybe apply it to their own business?
It absolutely is happening today. I'm going to bring up the C word that we've all lived through several years ago of COVID. We all saw equipment shortages. We all witnessed extremely eager customers to buy and spend money, and we couldn't get our hands on enough inventory. So we were ordering like crazy, and the manufacturers were pushing our order rating levels up and up and up and up because, obviously they couldn't produce what was being sold. So everything going out the door was almost retailed. Nothing was building up in inventory on the lot. With that being said, then we were using the excuse of material shortages. Now, there was some truth to it, but I don't know how long that actually was true. But we kept driving the prices of this up. We witnessed invoice prices of equipment go up 20-25% in one fiscal year. That's absolutely insane when you're talking $300,000 tractors. Well, that kept driving and driving and driving. So that drove used up through the roof. And then if we wanted to continue making deals, we had to buy the used at that high dollar as well, because obviously there's a shortage of inventory and iron is not available. So we're buying high again. That's okay when we know where our inventory is going. That's okay when we have actually put a place or a procedure into place in our sales department to start looking at potential second homes or third homes for this equipment before we put that booking number on it. And we required our salesmen to start doing that. We started, we would argue back and forth, or debate, I would say is a better word, what the book-in value would be. And of course, the salesman would like it booked as high as possible. But until I had a sales team that came up with 10 potential second homes for that machine, my book-in number was what reigned king. I wasn't going to allow the sales team to start putting their numbers on it because, yes, at that point in time, the industry was driving, saying that is potentially where it's going to retail at. But now that the inventory is building up on lots and the manufacturers are going to continue shoving this inventory onto their dealers, because to keep a factory open, you got to produce X amount of equipment. And to have X amount of equipment, you got to have so many dealers sign up and order that equipment as well. So yeah, they're concerned about their dealers to some degree, but keeping the factory open is number one, and that means the equipment has to go to the dealers' lots. When that keeps piling up with these price increases, and then we've spent 3 years buying equipment at extremely high dollar amounts, now we run into this last several years of inflation, interest hikes, and all of the other compounding problems that have been occurring. Dealers are finding themselves not only stacked with new equipment, but now all those sins and the bad deals they made over the last 2 or 3 years are starting to show their ugly faces, and they're trying to decide what to do and where do we go. That goes right back to what we discussed earlier. Sit down with your team, analyze what you have going on in your inventory, analyze who you potentially could move this iron to, and take the hit now and move on. Don't let it fester. It just gets worse.
I think that's a great last sentence to end on right there. Don't let it fester. It's going to get worse. All right. Well, thank you very much, Tom, for joining us for this episode. Thank you to Tractor Zoom for sponsoring the series with us. We've all learned a lot. Thank you very much.
Excellent.